80 kilometers still to race, and Tadej Pogacar just shattered the peloton on white Tuscan gravel. Behind him, nothing but dust and disbelief. Van der Poel, Van Aert, Evenepoel, all watching his wheel vanish into the hills. No team organizes a chase. No rider bridges the gap. One man has just turned Strade Bianche, the race many call cycling's sixth monument, into something nobody in that convoy knows how to stop. Slicing the peloton in two with a single, violent acceleration. The white limestone shimmered under the Tuscan sun, but behind him, the road blurred into a wall of dust and confusion. For a moment, every rider in the group hesitated. No one dared to react. Pogacar's Colnago, fitted with 28mm Pirelli tyres and the signature Oakley visor, rocketed up the sector's gentle grade while the rest of the field scattered for traction. The attack came at just under 80 kilometers to go, so far from Siena that even the race radios crackled with disbelief. The peloton's collective freeze was almost physical. Teams like Visma Bike, Alpecin Deceuninck, Soudal Quick-Step, and Ineos Grenadiers faltered, their leaders caught mid-decision. The usual choreography of chasers and counterattacks collapsed. The only thing moving was the time gap, 30 seconds, then a minute, then more. Pogacar's silhouette shrank into the rolling hills, framed by the endless white ribbon of gravel and the scattered farmhouses that have witnessed a century of cycling history. On the Monte Sante Marie, the surface itself became a weapon. The fine powder offered no grip, punishing any rider who tried to follow with a spray of loose stones and a sudden loss of speed. Pogacar rode the cleanest line, his cadence steady, his body low and centered, every watt from his legs translating into forward motion. The chase behind was disorganized, riders glancing at each other, waiting for someone, anyone, to commit. But the moment had passed. The race was now defined by absence, the absence of a chase, the absence of hope for those left behind, and the growing void between Pogacar and the rest of the world's best. On this stretch of white road, a single attack had turned Strade Bianche into a one-man spectacle, the peloton left to choke on the dust of a move that nobody was willing or able to follow. In 2026, the Strade Bianche route cut 201 kilometers through Tuscany, defined by 64 kilometers of white gravel that coated riders and machines in dust. Each sector, numbered and storied, forced the peloton over 3,500 meters of climbing, winding past the Crete Senese's stark hills and lonely farmhouses. The race narrowed to a final 2.5-kilometer ramp into Siena's Piazza del Campo, a climb averaging 8%, its cobbles punishing tired legs and magnifying every mistake. Strade Bianche's reputation as the unofficial sixth monument rests on this terrain, where weather, gravel, and history combine to test even the strongest. The white roads are unpredictable, turning the race into a contest of nerve and resilience as much as speed. The medieval finish in Siena, with its sharp turns and ancient stones, offers no guarantees. The 2026 field brought together cycling's fiercest rivals. Mathieu van der Poel, world champion, led Alpecin Deceuninck with his explosive power. Wout van Aert, now racing for Soudal Quick-Step, arrived with classics experience and time trial strength. Remco Evenepoel, a master of chaos, watched for his chance. Primoz Roglic, riding for Visma Bike, approached the gravel with a Grand Tour winner's patience. Tom Pidcock, Ineos Grenadiers off-road specialist, hunted for any opening. Jonas Vingegaard, fresh from Tour de France victory, entered as the wildcard, his climbing yet untested here. Teams like UAE, Team Emirates, Visma Bike, Alpecin Deceuninck, Soudal Quick-Step, and Ineos Grenadiers each arrived with their own ambitions. But on these roads, tactics often dissolve into survival. Power meter files, reconstructed after the race, tell the story in cold, relentless detail. an average of 380 watts over the final 80 kilometers, with a normalized power brushing 400 watts. That means, for nearly 2 hours, Pogačar rode at a level that most World Tour leaders reserve for short, decisive climbs, not for an endless stretch of white limestone and rolling Tuscan hills. Each time the road tilted up, he spiked above 800 watts, surging clear of every attempted chase. The time gaps chart the damage. 10 kilometers after the attack, the peloton trailed by half a minute. At 60 kilometers to go, the deficit had grown to more than a minute. By the time the race hit the 40-kilometer mark, Pogačar's advantage stretched past 2 minutes. With 20 kilometers left, the gap peaked at 3.5 minutes, a chasm that no coordinated chase, no matter how desperate, could bridge. Every checkpoint on the course measured the same equation. Each watt above the group's average translated into seconds, then minutes, lost forever in the dust. At 67 kilograms, Pogačar's effort worked out to nearly 5.7 watts per kilogram, a figure that sits above the gold standard for Grand Tour climbers. He was not just holding off the world's best, he was gaining ground with every pedal stroke. The data doesn't just quantify dominance, it explains why, on this day, tactics and teamwork were powerless against pure, sustained force. The chase groups rode hard, but the numbers were merciless. Power, not hope, dictated the outcome on the white roads of Tuscany. On the white roads of Tuscany, the machine becomes an extension of the rider, and every technical detail matters. Pogačar's Colnago wasn't just a frame, it was a calculated weapon, built for the demands of Strade Bianche's unpredictable gravel. Up front, 28mm Pirelli tubeless tyres, paired with a slightly wider 30mm rear, created a contact patch wide enough to bite into the loose limestone, but narrow enough to keep the bike light and agile. Tyre pressures were dialed with surgical precision, 28 psi at the start, then let down to 23 psi for the roughest sectors. The goal was simple: maximum grip with minimum rolling resistance, a formula refined through wind tunnel tests and real-world gravel sessions. The Colnago's integrated cockpit and internal cable routing sliced through the headwinds that sweep the Tuscan hills. Shimano's 12-speed Dura Ace Di2 group set delivered instant shifts even under full load, while disc brakes provided the confidence to carve through dust-choked descents. Oakley's visor shielded Pogačar's eyes from the glare and the swirling powder, every brand logo a silent partner in this solo bid. But the engine needed fuel. Every 30 minutes, a bottle loaded with a 20% carbohydrate electrolyte mix, 800 milliliters at a time, kept blood sugar steady. 2 25-gram gels, one at 45 minutes, another at the 90-minute mark, landed exactly when muscle glycogen stores risked dipping. In the final 15 kilometers, a fast-absorbing maltodextrin gel delivered a last glucose surge, timed to hit the bloodstream before the final climb into Siena. Red Bull's sponsorship wasn't just branding, it meant access to the latest in rapid delivery energy packs and recovery formulas, ensuring the tank never ran dry. Every element, tire width, pressure, frame geometry, fueling schedule, was chosen to convert watts into speed and keep fatigue at bay. The Colnago, the nutrition, the aerodynamics, and the relentless fueling routine worked in concert, allowing Pogačar to sustain a solo effort that would have cracked most Grand Tour contenders. On these roads, the difference between winning and fading is measured in grams, psi, and grams of carbohydrate per hour. For 80 kilometers, the balance held. Pogačar's face is streaked with dust, jaw clenched, every muscle fiber stretched to its breaking point. Each pedal stroke on the ancient stones echoes the toll of 80 solo kilometers, legs trembling, arms locked for control, eyes fixed on the last sliver of sunlit Piazza del Campo. Behind him, the chase is nowhere in sight. The margin holds at 38 seconds, the largest in Strade Bianche's history, yet the gap feels measured in lifetimes as he grinds over the final crest. Crowds press against the barriers, roaring, but the only sound inside the effort is the rasp of breath and the rattle of the Colnago's frame. The finish line draws closer, every meter a battle against gravity and exhaustion, until at last the white gravel yields to the red brick of Siena and the story is sealed. Long-range solo attacks have always been cycling's ultimate gamble, but Pogacar's 80-kilometer move on the white roads instantly joined the canon of the sport's most audacious moments. Eddy Merckx's 1972 Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Cancellara 2010 Flanders, Sagan's Ghent-Wevelgem, Boonen's early season rampages each set a template for dominance, but none unfolded on gravel this brutal or with rivals this prepared. In the aftermath, sponsor metrics told their own story. UAE Team Emirates' win drove a €12 million surge in brand value. Colnago and Pirelli logos trended globally, and Red Bull's partnership with Pogačar became a case study in sports marketing. The ripple extended beyond the podium. World Tour teams began investing in gravel-specific power meters, aerodynamic testing, and nutrition science, knowing that future rivalries between Van der Poel, Van Aert, Evenepoel, Roglic, and Vingegaard would be fought on the edge of endurance and innovation. The 2026 Strade Bianche didn't just crown a winner, it redefined what's possible in the modern classics. In a sport obsessed with calculation, one rider's audacity just rewrote the playbook. Today, every World Tour team must reckon with the reality: no margin is safe, no tactic is sacred. Strade Bianche's white roads demand risk, and legends are built on chaos. What would you do faced with that attack?